which has never happened. To this day, each municipality in Lafayette Parish, including the city of Lafayette, has its own budget. And the parish of Lafayette has its own budget. Within that charter that reference our concerns. One is that the governmental functions of the city of Lafayette are consolidated with the governmental functions of Lafayette Parish. Key point here, the city of Lafayette remains a legal entity. It never went away. It's important to understand. The city parish council shall be the governing authority for the city of Lafayette. And that is the issue that we think we're addressing, or we hope to address in this proposed charter amendment. And then of course, the president at that time, it was Mr. Robideau's position was known as the parish president. Today is the mayor president, and he certainly exercises executive powers and administrates all of the functions of the public services that we provide to all of us in the city and parish of Lafayette. Every registered voter in Lafayette Parish participates in the election of your Lafayette mayor-president. Every voter. City of Lafayette, all the other municipalities, unincorporated. As I mentioned, the mayor of Lafayette is also the parish president. On the parish council is elected parish-wide. There are 9 districts. Roughly about 25,000 population per district, elected parish-wide, which means that every registered voter gets to have a say who represents them on the city parish council. That includes the people in Broussard. It includes the people in Lafayette. So this is a parish-wide initiative. As I mentioned, Lafayette Consolidated Government does not have any jurisdiction over Broussard, Carencro, Dussault, Scott, and Youngsville. They are not part of Lafayette Consolidated Government. In fact, each of these municipalities has its own mayor and its own council. There have been some efforts through the years, most recently in 2010, 2011, I participated in an effort to truly deconsolidate, to do away with consolidated government. I got beat bad. Mr. Bakke, who's sitting over there with his lovely wife Cookie, and I engaged in a series of conversations in public about the benefits of doing that and the disadvantages. Don had some valid points that today remain valid. I had some valid points that today remain valid. And I think that what we're proposing in these charter amendment changes addresses what we at that time thought might be a true way to fix the charter. In 2013, there was an effort by the Chamber of Commerce to produce what was called a fair and focused plan. It failed on the council floor because it, at that time, as it does today, requires 6 votes. There were not 6 votes available. In 2015, the way we do government in the city and parish of Lafayette was made a major platform on all of our campaigns. I, for one, said I wanted to change. There are those who ran in the parish said, no, nothing wrong with it. But it was an issue that was a topic of conversation during those political campaigns. So here we are in 2018, and we're looking at some changes. So what are the issues? Lack of city autonomy. I represent District 6, 100% City of Lafayette residents. Not being critical of Mr. Terrio on the council representing District 9, but he has about 8% City of Lafayette constituency. So 7%? 9% here.
And I have 9% parish. 9%
So
city.
the thing is, when we come to a vote, let's say when we come to address utility rates for the City of Lafayette utility system, owned by the City of Lafayette, Mr. Terrio's vote carries the same weight as my vote. And yet he has a very small percentage of city constituents who are impacted by that. So there's an undue influence in how we do government in the City of Lafayette. And I think just as critical as providing autonomy for the City of Lafayette is that the parish is kind of by the wayside. We kind of treat it as a secondary concern. We shouldn't. The parish of Lafayette has significant problems that need to be addressed. And we think a parish council will be able to accomplish that. If you walk away tonight with only one thing that we're going to mention, this is not deconsolidation. This is a splitting of the councils, the governing councils for the parish of Lafayette and the city of Lafayette. The mayor-president remains in position and administrates the functions of consolidated government as he does today. I read Facebook mostly because I do it in a defensive mode. I want to make sure I put out fires before they get out of hand. There's comments talking about, well, we have to change our logo, change our letterhead. No, Lafayette consolidated government, nothing changes. Just the form of the governing councils. So what is the proposal? Very simple. We establish a city of Lafayette only council. As proposed today, 5 members. Establish a parish only council. As proposed today, 5 members. The parish council will represent about 45,000 people in each district. And I know we've gotten some feedback that, wow, that's a lot of people to represent. But when it comes down to the governing process, the parish government today actually only addresses those issues in the unincorporated area. And while that may not sound like a lot, it is. We have about 70,000 people who do not live in a municipality. So about 1/3 of the population lives in the unincorporated area. On the city council, we will have 5 districts representing about 25,000 people in each district, which is about what we represent today. I think I have 23.5.
I have 25.2.
So there's not much difference in relationships of whom we represent in terms of numbers. That will be basically the same. 5 evenly divided districts, all within the city of Lafayette.
And I know y'all see the map here. I do have some on the wall over there. If you want to take a look, you can see it a little bit better.
So, why is this important? What does it fix? Well, you know, we talk about tax dollars. The budgets have remained separate for 22 years. Councilmen with few city taxpayer constituents decide how city dollars are spent. And in this proposal, only city representatives will vote on city taxes. Here's where we have a real dilemma. When we talk about the parish broke, and it is broke, folks, believe me, it's very broke. They say, well, how can you be broke when every year you adopt a budget this year of $633.5 million? Well, the fact is that the parish of Lafayette only has about 15% of that total budget. It's only $96 million. And when you look at the dedicated property taxes, you end up with a $12 million general fund. The general fund are those dollars that are discretionary monies that we can actually determine where they will go. Everything else is dedicated. The property tax for this library is dedicated. We cannot use it anywhere else for any other purpose. The city of Lafayette has a budget that includes 3 major components. We have the city of Lafayette itself, our general fund, which by the way is about $100 million compared to the parish's $12 million. We have a Lafayette utility system and an LUS Communications system, which actually makes up about half of that total budget. And I know there may be some questions tonight about LUS, and we're more or less prepared to answer them. We'll address that at the appropriate time. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is that LUS today contributes $23 million to the city of Lafayette General Fund. It's a process called in lieu of taxes. That's today, has been in practice for years. How do we allocate monies today? This is where consolidation comes into play. The expenses that are related to consolidation are split between the city and the parish general fund. And remember, look at the ratio of the parish general fund being 12 million, the city general fund being 100 million. That's important. We have this allocation formula which is in place. Do I like it? No, and I'll tell you why in a second. The 2 critical components, the protocol, and how we determine what will the city of Lafayette pay and what will the parish pay on consolidation. One is based on budgeted expenditures. Well, if you don't have much money, you can't spend much money. Parish has 12 million to play with, city of Lafayette has 100 million. So when you break it down percentage-wise, that's the allocation formula, and I'll show you that in a second. The other thing, fancy phrase, non-dedicated ad valorem and sales tax revenue. Really what that says is what can this parish of Lafayette afford? Okay? What can it afford to pay for its portion of the consolidated services? The city has more revenue than the parish does. Bottom line, here's what happens. For the council office, which is elected parish-wide, for the president's office, which is elected parish-wide, and for the chief administrative office, which administrates parish-wide, the city of Lafayette picks up 78% of the cost. For the parish, they pick up 18%. Basically cover how we do our accounting system. We pick up 82%, parish 18%. There's no doubt in my mind that since 1996, the city of Lafayette has been carrying the parish of Lafayette and does so to this day. They have been riding our financial coattails. Here's the real concern that we have. Back in 1990, the city of Lafayette had 62% of the population, which was okay. That means we had some significant influence on what was being done on the city parish council. Well, through the years, we have had one of the fastest growing communities in the state of Louisiana, Youngsville. Okay? Has really taken off, as has Broussard, Karen Grove, Scott. Dussault has grown so much they went into Acadia Parish, okay? Because they could pick up gambling money. What we are looking at, and I don't agree with this projected 2020 census, I think in 2020 census we may lose the majority of the parish population. Right now we are at about 52.5% of the parish population. What happens is, if that happens, Nanette Cook, who represents District 7, currently has a 60-40 ratio in terms of city and parish residents, and she is considered a city councilman. Any council member on today's council that has 60 or more % city constituency is considered a city councilman. Nanette will become a rural councilman. I don't think it'll change the way she votes, but certainly her constituency would be more influential on the rural side than it will be on the city side. So we expect that the representation problem will only worsen after 2020. This will not fix the parish budget, folks. I can tell you that we're $1 million below projected estimates for income this year. We're going to make some major adjustments in the parish budget within the next 2 months. If you're missing $1 million in what you projected for to cover expenses and it's not there, you're going to have to make some adjustments. And that's even before we look at the new budget for the next fiscal year, which we actually begin next Tuesday. So having a parish of Lafayette focused solely on the needs of Lafayette Parish, we think is essential. Just as important as the City of Lafayette Council focusing on City of Lafayette issues. And drainage is at the top of mind, has been since 2016, will continue to be. And that has to be an issue addressed by the parish. Recapping quick, this is not deconsolidation. We are splitting the governing councils for the city and parish of Lafayette. The mayor-president's role is retained. He stays in position as he is today. He continues to administrate Lafayette Consolidated Government as it exists today. The one thing that may change, and this is conversations that I've had, in fact, just this morning, Liz and Nanette and I had, there's concern, and we're getting pushback from the general public. Well, you know, there were some ulterior motives here. Those folks that are terming out, and there are 4 of them today on the Lafayette City Parish Council. This is going to give them the chance to run again. Well, I know from talking to you this morning that there will be an amendment on the floor, possibly on August 8th, to amend that. Now, we're a little bit different opinion as to how to amend it, but we're going to work it out. That's politics that you just need to have to build consensus. That's how many votes?
51%.
Now they feel like they can leave. They're like, okay, well, that's handled.
By the way, 3 of those council members have committed that they are not running again. Jay Castile, Jared Bellard, and William Terrio for City Parish Council. And there are indications that the 4th may not. So here's what happens. If approved on December the 8th, if we get that far, We have to get past that August date. The elections for the new councils would be in the fall of 2019. They would take office in January of 2020. So the current city parish council in place today stays in place for another 18 months. We serve out our term. Even if we don't like it, state law says we must serve out our term. So the feedback that we've already heard, additional parish council members, additional city council members, there's concern about adding cost and personnel. Well, if you do the first two, you will definitely end up on the third one. As proposed in the charter, amendments that we are discussing, 5 and 5, today we have 9. We have a council staff that we are confident, they're very professional, that they will be able to handle 5 parish and 5 city councilmen. Today, the person with whom Liz and I work actually works for 5 city councilmen. The 4th person, the second administrative assistant, works for the other 4 parish councilmen. So adding 1 should not be a real burden on that 1 person. Now, we will have 4 meetings a month. That is an issue that needs to be addressed. But until 2 years ago, we had 3 meetings a month. So 1 more meeting a month. So I will shut up and give it to Liz.
Thank you, Bruce, I appreciate it. So a couple of things I wanted to run through is maybe explain a little bit about the process of how we've come to here. Is, as many of you know, this was introduced at our meeting last Tuesday. And typically, about 99.9% of the ordinances come through introduction. We typically vote in globo, which means every single introductory ordinance, we just move on through and vote them all, yes, to get them passed, to go to the next step to final. And the reason for that is so we can do things like this. If you're in my district, you probably attended a couple of my town hall meetings, or I've been to your neighborhood association meetings. I recognize a few of you. And it's for this very reason, is to get your feedback. But typically, most of the things we vote on are not a citywide thing. It typically just affects your district. Maybe it's District 8, District 6 maybe. So typically it doesn't have this kind of attention. So typically how we handle it, and every council member is different, is that we vote to introduce it. We get the 2 weeks to bring it to you, the constituent. We provide feedback, or we do our own due diligence and do our research to find out more about it. And then at final is when we make any kind of amendments. Bruce mentioned that the amendment for the term limits was something that was up for discussion, and that's something that I do plan on bringing up, that all term limits will remain in effect and be rolling over into the next city parish council, if it passes with the voters, of course.
That amendment requires only 5 votes.
And thank you, Bruce, is that vote only requires 5 members of the council, whereas the actual final vote for this, if it gets amended, is 6 votes of the council. So I just wanted to make sure everyone kind of knew how that process worked. As I told you before, the council's going to vote on it on August 7th. And then it'll be on the ballot if approved on December 8th. So we're going to be moving on to Q&A. I want to keep this rolling. If any of you have to leave, I have some cards up here. I should probably move them to the back so you don't have to come to the front. I am going to put this information in my next newsletter that goes out at the end of this month. If you want to sign up for it, be sure to get my card and email me your email address, and I'll get you signed up for the newsletter. That way you can receive this information too. Some light afternoon reading. So, all right, and with that, we'll kick it out to you. Because you sat in the front row, you get to go first.
Yeah, I wanted to go first.
You wanted to go first? Well, come on.
Hey, Louis, introduce yourself.
Yeah,
Okay?
and so if you
This
don't
man
mind,
has got a lot of institutional knowledge.
if you don't mind, say your name and what district you're from, please.
My name is Louis Benjamin. I'm from District 4. And as you can see, I'm giving away my age after looking at my people. I believe it was 96. I ended up in Washington, D.C. opposing consolidated government. And it's been a problem of mine that I'm paying most of the money, but you're getting a ride. Now, I want to say something. I'm not saying this to offend anyone, because I try to be a direct person, not trying to talk. And you know, consolidated government came about from a non-political organization. A non-governmental organization, let me correct myself. Politically, yes. And at the time, they had the opportunity in Lafayette to do things without having to go through an election. They had that much political influence. And it all came about people developing property. In the rural area, people were developing acres of property. It was a boom. So what would happen? I developed this property. I have a cheap tax base when I develop it. Then I put a ribbon on the ground and then send it back to the government to make the street meet standards. I remember addressing that and being told one time, I told him, you don't know who I am. You know, I'm not a violent person. I've done all my time in the army with violence, but all I'm saying is the citizens should know this. And I want to preface what I have to say before, because I don't want to waste people's time. Now, by the way, I stayed in office 8 terms, 32 years. Tried not to run sometimes. I knew the people who were putting the candidates against me. And I want to say something. I didn't like the thing about people talking about me in the terms of black and white. I really don't care what nobody color. Because I don't let nobody do me nothing or disrespect me, and I won't do that with them. I just want to preface this because I know a lot of people hang that on my head. But you know what's suspicious about this? I remember in 96 or 95 being called in and saying, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about, but we're going to do a citizen commission. I said, what? You can't argue with a citizen commission if you change the government. Who decided that this government needs to be changed? How is it decided? You know, don't do nothing, I'm paying all these taxes. And then you tell me about it. I mean, there's something that's wrong with this. I want to address the tax issues that's going on. City residents get 2 tax bills every year. Some of them are mandated by state statute. When you talk about the library, the sheriff, and some other components of the government. Why do the independent towns or municipalities, they can operate independently? If you made an independent city in Lafayette, why aren't we using the same process they're using? You know, I'm paying quite a bit of tax because I pay, you know, I don't have a lot of tax write-offs, but I do have some things I bought since it's come here a bit now. But the whole thing I'm saying to you, you know, I received these bills. And I looked at one this year closely. And I'm not dropping name, but I have a son that's a corporate attorney, and he was down. I said, man, look at this. Tell me about this. And we had a long discussion about this. Will the city residence tax be just one tax bill? Now, you know something when I was on the council I would bring up, and that's when the political alliances began. I would say if they have so many properties, I mean, if I'm sitting there 100 acres of land in an unincorporated area, but I'm paying the taxes for you to take care of that land, your assets are greater than mine. It's just common sense. And especially with the price of the acre in Lafayette. Why don't you tax that land in an unincorporated area? Maybe you can't tax it as much as the city of Lafayette. I can understand that. But if your deficit is $12 million, it ain't be that much money if you tax that many residents in an incorporated area to meet that deficit. If you split this government, why should you? It says an 80-20 thing. Don't believe that. These people do intergovernmental agreements. I've been in office. They'll spend $2-3 million and call it an intergovernmental agreement. So some people on a free ride, I bet you ask the people in the corporate area, do you want to put a tax on your property? And you'll be taxing minimal to meet your need. You know, people talk about welfare, but that's a form of welfare when you can have government money and you're riding for free. I'm concerned about the district makes it. And I want to know, how did this come about? And this seemed to emanate, and Bruce might can tell me, this seemed to emanate from intra-council. What's going on? The first thing I read that, I'm term limited, but I could run again. They better read the ordinance. The ordinance don't address if the government changed or the district changed. It says you can only serve 3 terms. And that's the thing. I mean, you know, you might end up with some suits. Some people are talking about that and hold that government up. The current population, based on the UN Census.
I appreciate your interest and your participation, but this is a question and answer session.
Well, you got a question on answer.
I'm sure there are other people in the audience that have questions and participate in this question and answer session.
Well, let me say something to you. You don't have to be in opposition about this, but I want to be very.
You gave us your opinions on your personal.
That is not my opinion. I'm talking facts.
Louis,
All right.
I served with Louis on the council, okay? So he and I have gotten along quite well over the years. One thing that he made a comment on, property taxes will not change. Property for the parish will stay in place. City property taxes stay in place.
The question is, can it change?
That's something that can be addressed.
And-
All right. Do you want to go to?
Well, let me say real quick, all this being said, we're gonna move to we're gonna set some sort of time limit. And you have texted and suggested 3 minutes, so we're gonna go with the 3-minute time limit, and I have a little timer right here.
But if it's just a question.
Oh.
Just 3 minutes worth of questions.
I'm Paul Marks, I'm in District 8, I'm in the parish. My question to you two guys is, how does this solve the money problem? And isn't a lot of the parish of Lafayette a lot different from when consolidation started, in that there are a lot of urban areas outside of the city limits? So that's where I am over in Chelsea subdivision, some of us here tonight. Our concern is, you're gonna put us in a form of government where I don't know who's who in terms of who's gonna control that council. It seems to me that Lafayette's got a lot of interest in those urban areas outside of the city limits. So how does this solve any of the problems if we're running out of money?
It doesn't solve the parish budget problem. We hope that it will make focus on the parish government issues. Your property taxes will remain the same as they are today. We will continue to suffer from a lack of sales taxes in the unincorporated area because City of Lafayette, every other municipality is guilty of grabbing a retail operation as quickly as they develop so that they can capture the sales tax. We're gonna lose that.
So, well, my follow-up to that, Bruce, is that's sort of a fake distinction. Because if I buy a car, I'm gonna pay sales taxes. So why don't we consolidate the budget and the parish, the people in the unincorporated areas team up with Lafayette or Youngsville or whomever? It seems to me what you're doing to me is you're saying you're in an urban area, but guess what? You get stuck with a government that has only $12 million and can't provide services. Too bad, because we want all the sales taxes that I spend in Lafayette and other people, that population along the border. That's just not gonna go to my benefit because you're gonna take it and just have the same.
And Paul, with all due respect, you and I have been friends for a while, go make that argument in Broussard for Youngsville. They determine how they spend their tax dollars regardless of where, if the tax dollars in their jurisdiction, they do it.
Doesn't make it right.
Ask me to vote for city government, and I don't have that privilege. That's the issue.
The woman in the back with the mustard colored shirt, right there, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, my name's Ethan Bruce. I'm a lifelong resident of District 6. You know, I was born here, grew up here. I go to high school, college, all my Parish. I'm gonna die here. You know, I like the general proposal that you guys are talking about of, okay, make a city council for Lafayette. But I think the real long-term problem we need to solve is the lack of true consolidation. We're talking about all these issues, and a lot of them come from the lack of actual consolidation between city and parish, and not just city in terms of Lafayette, but Broussard, Youngsville, Dusson, all these places. They need to consolidate more as well. Look at other great cities, not just in America, but in the rest of the world. They don't have this nonsense where we have, oh, well, there's Youngsville, there's the unincorporated areas, there's this, there's that. No, they have one unified government. The city of New York is a great example. They have 5 different boroughs, and they're all in one government in City Hall. That's the way it should be in Lafayette. And if not a total consolidation, at least a more consolidated government.
Okay, in the charter today, there is an option that if the town of Broussard wants to become part of consolidated government, they could present that option to their voters. If their voters approved it, then it would be subject to a vote of the parish as a whole. That's today. None of them have taken advantage of that option, nor do I expect they will.
And just so you know, I reached out to council members and those various councils, and all of them said it would never work and they would never bring it up.
Well, it doesn't even have to be full consolidation.
Right.
They can keep their city councils and their mayors, but what we need to consider is having more central control of the city parish of Lafayette. Because that's the thing. We talk about Youngsville, Broussard, Lafayette, Carencro. No, the thing is, when you live in the parish of Lafayette, we're not a huge area. We don't sprawl out all over the place. This is really a tiny area where a lot of people live. We should think more as being one Lafayette, not this, cluster of different arguing municipalities. If we truly unify, then we can solve a lot of issues, like, where some people pay taxes for one thing, but it serves the entire parish, or, some people don't get services, but others do. That's what we need to think about, and I just think at least getting more consolidated answers.
There's something interesting when we were looking at the charter as it exists today, is that the word unincorporated parish does not appear in the charter. The city parish charter as it exists today addresses the parish of Lafayette. Now, in practice, we have addressed only the city of Lafayette and the unincorporated parish.
Hi, I'm Jim Crumling. I'm in, I forget which district I'm in. I just cover everything. I do a show on AOC on Wednesday nights, and I'm the president of the Acadiana Patriots. I get a lot of phone calls, just like y'all do. And two of the biggest questions, one of them you covered, is the dispute over the term limits. And I can tell you what the vote would be if all those people were on the council. They don't see that as something that should happen. 3 terms, that's it. We need to change faces. We need to have a rotation of different people and ideas. But the biggest question that came to me is, where did this come from? That's the question. I mean, honestly, when I saw this, I went, what is the rush? If we're gonna do something to change how we do business in this parish, then we need, it's great you're doing all these, that's awesome. I'm not totally against the ideas, some of the ideas, but I think at this point in time, that map, we called. We actually called, and that map, we're gonna vote on something that we have no clue what the districts are. I gave an example on my show about that on Wednesday night. I was an engineer for GE, and I installed and worked on X-ray equipment. And before I ever went in to install a room, I knew where every wire was going. I knew where every piece of equipment was going in place. I didn't go into that room and just start putting pieces here and there. And that's what I honestly feel, and a lot of people that called me feel that way, that this is not something that we should rush into on August 7th and vote on it in December. I think that it needs to be looked at a lot closer, and maybe more and better ideas will come. The term limit thing, whew, that threw up a red flag for everybody. But that is what I've gotten as feedback, that we're rushing this thing through. Why? That is the question I get asked. Why? And I know some of the answers.
Well, as you said, we addressed the term limits thing. That's going to be amended, definitely. At least I know 2 people who support it, Nanette and Liz. And all she needs is 5 votes. So that's going to happen, I think. The other thing about why we're rushing, we're not rushing. We've been talking about this since 2009. We failed in 2011. Look, with a 60-40 vote, okay? Deconsolidation was off the table as far as I was concerned. I made my best effort. Don had made his. We were told at that time, oh, we're going to bring it back. We're going to discuss it. We're going to fix it. What has happened since 2011? Nothing. So Jay Castile and I took it upon ourselves, And look, for Jay Castillo and I to work together, I don't know if you know our past relationship. It has not been friendly. But today we're working together on it because we know something has to be done. We took the initiative to review every section of today's chart and identify what changes had to be made to accomplish the division of the two councils. I know they're numerous. I think we have 13 or 15 changes, but they're all tied to accomplishing the purpose. So this was not rushed. This goes back to 2009.
I'm just telling you exactly what was asked of me.
Yeah.
I know that a lot has taken place over the years. I've lived here for 35 years.
And in 2011, we heard the same arguments.
Yeah.
Don't rush into
This
it.
gentleman right here, then you in the gray, and then you in the palm.
Pat?
I wanted to speak, I'm actually in District 5, with my councilman, who's also my neighbor's probably not having one, but, like I say, I worked for the city of Lafayette for 19 years, I worked for consolidated government for 14 years, and I worked for the city of Scott for 6 years, so I think I have a perspective on all this, but what it really boils down to, I own investment properties, all but one in the city of Lafayette, one's in Scott. I get two tax bills, it's not like my family here. I get two tax bills, one from the parish, one from the city. Specifically, I'm concerned about infrastructure. I get on my tax bill from the parish, it includes road and drainage maintenance. None of it is spent in the city of Lafayette or any of the small towns, it's all 100% spent in unincorporated area.
By agreement. Like it or not, yeah.
My city taxes I pay on all those areas, the roads and drainage are spent in those cities where I pay the taxes. So I really think it's more appropriate to have city councils decide how those taxes are spent. City councils voted on by people who live in those cities. It's like that already in Scott where I work and the other towns. It should be like that in the city of Lafayette, where those citizens who pay those taxes go to decide where they're spent, as they would give them their parish taxes areas where they go. That's a lot.
Thank you, Pat.
Wayne Colvin, I'm in Mrs. Hebert's district. I've given this a lot of thought too, and I want to take off what this gentleman said about the kind of the rusted judgment with this thing. Because if you look at these two maps on the wall here, you see where the district that the parish one overlaps the city one. So you have constituents that would be in both the city and in the parish. And I don't know how they would address that, because you would be voting for a city councilman and you'd be voting for a parish councilman. To me, this is just ludicrous. And we're talking about 50% of the people maybe living in the parish, so we're talking about 50% of this overlap. Now, what they're going to say is, well, we'll adjust these parish lines, but where? Where are they going to adjust them, and why do you come up with this sort of proposal here? So that's one big issue.
Oh, wait,
now,
that's a question. Could you let them answer that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think I can address that. When we come, I don't care when it was, and the last time was after the 2010 census. After every census, we have to go in and look at the population makeup of each district. And when a demographer, whoever that person is, looks at that, rule number one, we are still under the Voting Rights Act of 1964, believe it or not. So we have to account for majority-minority districts. That's where it begins. After that, everything else falls into place based on the boundaries that you're trying to create. In this instance, we were trying to create the city of Lafayette, for example. Nanette Cook, her district is 60-40, 60 cities, 40. So we had to bring her into the city and make significant changes in the district I represent. I have lost everything east of Johnson Street to Liz and to Nanette, because we had to fit everything in. So when you have your majority-minority, that's number one, and then trying to bring in those people that live outside the city into the city, it squeezes everything. And you really haven't got much choice as to how you do things. The district which I may represent, and I'm going to run for it, would go from University between Johnston and Hayrass-Landry all the way to Target, okay? Way out of what I represent now. But that's the way the numbers fall. We have no choices. You have to base it on guidelines established by the Department of Justice.
But somebody in that district would also be in a parish district.
Yes, sir, because we are in the parish.
Well, so they would vote for you or your opponent, plus they vote for a parish.
Absolutely.
So they would be voting for two different people.
Absolutely. That's the way it was before 1996.
Okay, and this
Well,
gentleman in the gray,
outlying area.
sorry, go ahead.
In the outlying area, you know, they operate under their own little budgets. This is not the parish, not the consolidated government that we have. So to me, that's one big year. Now, further in that charter proposed, it says that they can levy taxes. So those areas could levy a tax in that district, and then the parish could come back and levy a tax in that district.
We can do that today.
Well,
We can do it today. And we do
well,
it.
but not to the extent that it would be to this 50% of the population that we have here. Now, set that aside, and I have some other issues, but I'll have just one more thing, and then I'll sit down. Could you talk about all the tax revenues and the big issues that what I'd like you to propose is that maybe you could put it in your newsletter. Break that down in some kind of pie chart, line chart, some kind of graph or something, so we could better get a handle on those tax dollars, where they're coming from, where they're going. You threw out some good numbers, but it's hard to follow.
Yeah, and we can do that because in our budget book, there's nice graphs in there that do exactly what you said.
Absolutely, I can do that. Gentleman in the gray, did you still want to go?
Yeah, I mean, my question is actually a follow-on to that. I don't like the whole idea of, I don't want to have to pay for things that, I don't use, but I think we're part of a larger entity that's worth supporting.
Can't hear.
But sorry, anyway, my question is about revenues and budgeting. It seems to me that the part of the impetus here is the city's paying more than what it's getting out of this deal, and if we put a little bit of a squeeze in the parish, maybe some of the towns nearby, Scott, Dussault, might have to pony up some dollars as well, or refigure some of the things that people live out in the city. I just want to understand what the revenues is about here, the budget.
Revenues don't change. The other municipalities, including Lafayette, contribute obviously to the parish revenues.
Okay.
Now, do they receive the benefits of those parish revenues? That's always been a point of contention. But to be fair, if we allocated parish revenues based on population, the city of Lafayette would walk away with a large chunk of it. So over the years, through it, as I mentioned, unincorporated parish is not in the charter. Now will it be in the new one if we pass it? Through the years, the agreement has been, because we have limited parish monies, we're going to focus on the unincorporated area. And that's the way it is. That $12 million in general fund, not all of it, but a large chunk of it goes to unincorporated. And as far as revenues are concerned, when you look at the parish, this library would actually be under the jurisdiction of the parish council because it's paid for with parish taxes. The parish courthouse would be under the parish government, okay? They'd have a lot to do.
They can't afford it. They don't have a big.
No, we're doing it now. We're doing it now. Because we have dedicated property taxes for the library, for the courthouse, for the jails. Those are all parish functions. Now, the city of Lafayette will actually lose that control, okay? But the parish, by law, has the responsibility to administrate parish funds, including this building.
And the thing I appreciate most about this ordinance is that it focuses the city council members will focus on the city budget, and parish council members will focus on the parish budget and the needs of each of their districts because they're so different. And it'll be easier for you guys to, because right now the budgets are very complicated, so it'll be easier for the average constituent to understand exactly what their budget entails. And the gentleman here, and then the gentleman in blue right behind him, and then the gentleman in the olive color. But you know.
My name is Jay Smith. I live in District 6. I've read this ordinance, and I have probably a lot more than 3 minutes, so I will try to be as brief. And do I know you, ma'am? Have we ever met?
Oh, Liz is famous, you know.
No. This is a really serious question. I don't know you, do I?
No, I don't think so.
So I would have no reason to be unkind to you, would I?
I would hope you would.
Okay. I'm asking that because there have been a lot of things said that I don't find to be forthcoming or factual. And one of them is that at the last council meeting, there was a vote to put this by 5 people on the agenda, and they were short a vote because Mr. Conque was out of town. And then there was an insistence that we had to have this next meeting 2 weeks later, on the 24th. And then we learned all of a sudden that y'all decided, which is what you said this evening, it was because of public input, that all of a sudden we have the town and we decided to push it back some. But I learned something that I hope is incorrect. But it came to my attention that you're not going to be available to attend the meeting on the 24th.
And that's relevant how?
It's very relevant because that required the delay of the vote.
And she's also my representative, so I.
And she's a very lovely lady, and that's why I said I have no reason to be unkind.
If I may.
But what is, no, it's my turn.
I want to explain that real quick.
No, not till I'm finished, thank you. And so that would make me think that they were going to be down to 5 people again, which means they didn't have the 6th vote to pass it. See, it's not about you, it's about how things are presented. And the truth of the matter was, they were in a position then where they couldn't have the vote because they couldn't get it to pass.
Maybe not, let him explain.
But that's what the problem was, I was told, but that's only the first.
And here's the issue with that. And I'm the one that moved the dates because I asked one very simple question. Do we have some additional time before we have to go to the bond commission? Strangely enough, folks, for whatever reason, this has to go to the bond commission, the state bond commission. Okay, another issue we have with that group. When we were faced with some significant pushback on term limits and everything else, we asked, can we have some additional time to discuss it? We went to the attorneys and said, what's our absolute hard deadline? We had been told July 24th. Now they tell us, well, you can go to August 7th. The bond commission meets on August 21st. So from what we were told 5 months ago, which is with the timetable that we were working on, all of a sudden they're saying, oh, well, a little wiggle room there, you can go an extra 2 weeks. We took advantage of it. Now, will this be here for July 24th? No. But on August the 7th, we will have 9 people on the council casting their vote. And I think that is truly representative of the district, of the city and parish councils.
The next thing was, tonight you said, oh, it's just a breaking up of the council. It's not really deconsolidation. Nothing else really changes. But when I read through this, that's not really the way it sounded at all. First of all, you're going to break up planning and zoning. You have one group that's been doing it all this time, that's covered both the city and the parish. It's curious to me as to now why that has to break up. We already have a situation where there's going to be more meetings, more staff has to be hired for that. It's more government. It's a growth of government at a time when y'all said this evening, parish government doesn't have any money. And I'm going to call y'all to task for that one because your other statement was, well, the parish has just been riding on the coattails of the city all this time. And I'm thinking, who the hell's in charge? Wasn't it the 9 of you? Why didn't y'all say, people, the parish can't afford to fix your drainage. You're going to have to cough up a lot more money, or the roads, or the anything else. You didn't do this for years, and all of a sudden now we have a problem because the council hasn't been paying enough attention to parish business.
Okay,
is what you said.
That Liz and I are on our first term. So when you say council, that's a broad description.
It's not your first term.
It is not. I did one time with you. Now, I will tell you this about the Planning and Zoning Commission. I served on planning and zoning, I think, for 6, maybe 7 years. Okay, I chaired. One of the issues I had with what I was doing was that when it came to zoning issues, 3 of the 5 council of the commission members at the time lived in the city. There were 2 people who lived outside the city, determining what the city of Lafayette did with its zoning. That was wrong. I wanted to correct that if we were going to fix the charter. State law again creates a lot of problems. If you have a planning commission, you have to serve it has to serve as a zoning commission. So in an effort to have only zoning commissioners addressing the zoning problems in the city of Lafayette, we have to create 2 separate commissions. Now, this could be kind of strange because we don't have zoning in the parish. You could create 2 5-member bodies. Right now it's 7 members. They will be served by the same staff we have today. That will not increase the work.
I have to tell you that many of us do not find the 3 points of why it is so important, much less urgent, that the current council, which has functioned very well for 22 years, all of a sudden or ever needs to be changed. We heard your points, and I still think we don't agree with you. I think that this sense of urgency, this need, Lafayette has never had a problem. I know who to ask because the troublemaker in the room is always Andy. Has there ever been a situation? Has there ever been a situation where the council members from outside of the parish, to the outer parts of the parish, affected either the taxes of the LUS system in 20
Yes, sir. 2 occasions. The council has overridden LPUA on 2 occasions, which is illegal.
And we do not have equal representation on the council.
Let's keep.
As a city resident.
The only one question, Andy, I didn't want to start you beyond that. I think that we have missed a point in all of this. You keep wanting to break us back apart. We don't want to be broken apart. When you talk about drainage in the parish, when you talk about drainage in the parish, you have to talk about drainage in the city because they work together. There is no way around certain things.
You're absolutely
They're
correct.
going to be always
and you will
that
have
way.
you will have your opportunity to address your concerns on December the 8th if this passes. Just as everybody else in this room will have.
We have the gentleman in the blue, the gentleman in the olive, and the Dom, is that Dom back there in the blue? Yes, and then the.
So I want to address, that's a very pejorative we, so some people on a different side about that real quick though. My question is actually not for y'all. My question is for Mr. Conque, and it's for a pretty specific reason. I started caring about local politics at a 705 meeting where y'all debated each other. And you were pro-deconsolidation and you were anti-deconsolidation. And I kind of joined Bruce's side then. I've been on that side for a long time. My question's for you. Do you support this measure?
I support it in concept.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name's Jerry Fonto. I'm in District 8. I live in the Milton area around Riverwood, between Chelsea and the community of Milton. I have a couple of questions, and of course, I understand the city's perspective. People think that they're paying more to people for services to people in the parish, and they think the parish is getting a free ride. The problem we have is we need to educate both parts of this community in what actually happens to the money and the infrastructure that's being used by the total community. When it rains, it doesn't just rain in the city, and it doesn't just rain in the parish. So if the parish doesn't have any money to fix the drainage, the city people are going to have to help foot the bill. Okay, so we need to educate people and understand how that's going to take place. The other thing is that as the city grows, it keeps incorporating areas of the parish, and they take a lot of the densely populated areas because that's where the money is. So the parish is losing their tax base. So of course the parish doesn't have any money. They keep losing footage, ground to the city, and that's fine when you got a growing community.
To the 6 cities.
I have 2 questions.
6 cities.
Number 1, how will that affect the cost of the drainage in the parish if this goes through? How will you address the payments of the drainage areas that need to be corrected? Number 2, how does it affect the volunteer fire departments in the parish? I'm a member of the Milton Volunteer Fire Department. Our fire department is operating on shoestrings. They keep bringing new developments in our area, densely populated, and we have 12, 15 volunteer firemen, and we operating on a budget from year to year trying to keep our fire rating up, and we're going to lose it because we can't get enough funds to get enough equipment and build enough stations to support the population being permitted in our areas. So my 2 main questions is, how is it going to affect the drainage, and how is it going to affect our volunteer firemen in the unincorporated areas?
Okay, the first answer you won't like, nothing's going to impact the drainage because the revenues that address drainage in the parish and the city remain the same. But on the unincorporated areas dealing with fire protection, if we do as we are proposing to do at the next meeting, we are going to we've already created a fire district. We're going to propose a property tax for people in the unincorporated area to support a fire protection district. And when you look at the numbers, we think that in the long term, a homeowner will actually pay less in this new property tax than they are likely to pay in their home insurance premium, which is going to increase when the classification goes down for fire protection. So it's going to be like that. So you will have a chance. That's going to be the other thing on the ballot on December 8th. but it's only the unincorporated area of the parish.
John, you were next, and then a gentleman leaning against the wall, then Andy.
First, I want to say, Andy, you're right, before you even speak. Andy was right in 1992, Andy's right today. What you have today is a situation where you don't have equal representation in the city of Lafayette. What you have is taxation without representation in the unincorporated areas of the parish. Sorry, I said that backwards.
Representation without taxation.
Without taxation. Now, I don't know if y'all discussed this before I got here. I got here a couple of minutes late. But you have to understand how we got here. Okay, that's really important. You make a great point. For what you want to happen will never happen. The reason it won't happen, let me explain. Back in the 90s, when this was presented to the state legislature, at the last minute, all the other communities were given an opportunity to opt out. And it went to a vote of the people in the parish, not just the city, the parish and the city. With the people in those 5 communities participating in the vote. The people in the city of Lafayette, like you, thinking like you think, thought this will be great. Let's do it. It passed in the city. It did not pass in the unincorporated areas and the other little municipalities. The city of Lafayette put this in place. What did the city of Lafayette get for it? Nothing. So, what's happening now is a request for a change in your form of government so that your city residents are represented by their representative. What Bruce and the council is telling you, it's not going to affect the way you budget today. Because the way you budget today is the same. The only difference is no decisions will be made for how we spend the money in the city, except for people who live in the city. I served 8 years on the council. And Jay, I understand your concern about growing government. But I had problems week after week after week with other council members who didn't have the ability to do both, serve the city and serve the parish. Especially when it came to our utilities. And if we don't change it now, we will never be able to change it. Because what will happen is the demographics will change to such a degree that the people in the city of Lafayette will never have the deciding vote. And that's what Bruce is trying to do. I'm going to finish up by just saying this. The city of Lafayette should have the same opportunity the city of Scott, Broussard, Karen Crow, Dusson,
Everyone's paying attention. Good job. Everyone's paying attention.
They have their own mayor. They have their own city council. They have not given up anything. That's what we're asking for our city residents today. That's all. Thank you.
And to put an exclamation point on what Don said, Nancy Mounts, who was serving on the Lafayette City Council at the time, this was not proposed by the City Council. It was proposed by the Parish Council, and yet it was voted down on the parish side and approved on the city side. A little bit irony. One quick question about consolidation. There is only one truly consolidated government in the state of Louisiana and in most of the southern part of the United States, Orleans Parish.
The gentleman in the blue, then Andy up here.
Okay, James Mayor, live in District 7. 2 questions and a comment. I guess I'll make the comment first. I do think the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to be restructured. I think it's inadequate. Also, with public utilities, why is it, or is it because of economic reasons? away from the Public Utilities Authority and give them to the city council?
All right, the way we're structured today, the LPUA in the charter is composed of 5 members who have 60% or more city constituency. So that means that not every city resident is represented on LPUA. Reality is, since 1996, early 97, late 97, it was determined by our bonding council that all issues dealing with LUS had to be voted on by the entire council. So LPUA has really no stroke. We have some authority, but for the most part we don't. And all we're going to do is take that body, which doesn't have representation for all the city residents, and give it to the city council, which will represent all the city residents. So we will actually control LUS. It's ours, okay? It belongs to us.
One more question. And the last
Did you
question is,
have more?
right now we have a council where the majority of 9 rules of things. If this splits up, what you end up having is just 3 people making decisions.
Yeah.
Out of respective groups. Is that really good representation? Is that really the way that we want to do it?
Then I think you'd have to be very careful in whom you elect.
Wow.
That's hard.
My name is Andrew Hebert. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Lafayette. I've been following this since 96. I have a vision. The vision is, if you split them, the parish can outvote the city on any property tax. Correct? Which means the parish needs money for roads. They will pass a road tax, which the city will pay. Again. But you have your own road tax, so you don't need that. The test was the drainage tax, the parish-wide drainage tax. Didn't Youngsville get some of that in their town? Because their mayor went and negotiated with the parish president to get some of that money. Just like the mayor, Scott Dusson, Youngsville, Broussard, Youngsville, and the city of Lafayette. Oh, wait, he's the same guy. How did he negotiate with himself? You want to set up 2 councils to give the same mayor the same problem he has now? We voted to merge the corporate limits of the city of Lafayette with the parish of Lafayette in '92. The Constitution says you absorb the assets, debts, and liabilities of the smaller into the larger. It's time to have one city parish government, one city parish property tax, one city parish sales tax. The small towns can stay as they are. I have no problem with that. But the city of Lafayette voted in a parish vote. Now remember this is going to be fun. Because I'm going to ask the question at the council meeting, how are you going to count those parish votes? Suppose the people living in the city who are parish residents vote against changing the government, but the parish as a whole says yes. So the parish changed my city government? Well, suppose the people outside the city say, we don't want to change, but the people inside the city say, we do want to change. How do you count the vote? There was a parish-wide vote for consolidation. There never was a City of Lafayette vote for consolidation by the City of Lafayette registered voters. And that's why I go to the council meetings and write down Andrew Hebert, registered city voter. I should have a voice. Andrew Hebert, registered parish voter. I should have another voice. Just like the small towns have their mayor's voice, their council's voice, and the parish council's voice. This is kicking the can down the road. That's all it's doing. I would not support it.
And under this proposal, Andy will actually be able to go to the parish council as a parish member.
Poor Andy. It's too many meetings, Andy.
Will they only give you 5 minutes each?
I made a comment, Andy and I addressed the forum a couple of months ago, and I made the mistake of saying, I should get a t-shirt saying Andy was right. He won't let me live that down, so.
Well, let me finish that by saying, I asked him to put on the back, we didn't listen to him then, are we gonna listen to him now?
That's what makes politics fun. Liz?
I'm Greg Joe from District 9. I have a few questions, and my questions really revolve around, where does the administration sit on this?
Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me at all.
I think it does matter, but I'm just curious, because they've not come out in a pro or con, from what I can tell.
He was pointedly asked at our last council meeting, where do you stand? He said, I'm paraphrasing, I haven't had time to analyze it.
I did send him an email this week asking him to have an answer at the meeting on the 7th, a firm answer for the public to know.
Okay, is this proposal setting up a separate council for the city?
Yes.
Of Lafayette?
Yes.
Is that a form of deconsolidation from a city parish council?
Yes.
Yes, it is. I'll
It
answer
is.
for you. It is. If we're going to deconsolidate, then I don't know that you want to rush, and I don't know that this Band-Aid is going to fix it. And I don't know that the voter's going to vote for it or against it regardless. My point is, you're doing a form of deconsolidate. You consolidated because there was everything from short of funds, which we're still facing, to duplication of offices. And that's kind of what we're going to face again. That's fine. But the representation of the city, they do need it. The issue is the deconsolidation that you're trying to force with this. I think collectively, the majority would probably agree it's probably a little bit too quick when it took so long for us to get through deconsolidation, because Andy read off every place where the city and parish and Lafayette was wrong. And I just think that facing this, we might be rushing into this. Although I do believe Youngsville, Karen Crow, Broussard all have their own right, and I do believe they already have their own councils, and they're set up that way. Why can't we draw a line at the intersections and in the sand and create that area that they can grow and be on their own? I mean,
and that has come up in conversation that we've heard. It's called divvying up the parish, the unincorporated area. And that doesn't really address the situation. In fact, it makes the parish side much worse. If you incorporate every area of Lafayette Parish, the parish of Lafayette would lose $4.5 million just like that. It's using a $12 million budget.
And the local entities would gain it.
Local entities would gain it.
Which you're just now putting on them because of this.
No, I'm sorry. They would not gain they would gain the sales tax, but it's limited sales tax. They're going to stress their ability to provide infrastructure. The city of Lafayette, if we took in a major part of the parish, we would be expected to provide police. We have issues right now with providing police protection. We would be expected to provide fire protection. We have issues today meeting those demands. Also, your parish of Lafayette government doesn't go away. You still have to have a parish in place to administer the courthouse, to administer the jail, to administer the library, to administer all of the dedicated property taxes we have.
But that serves to my point. I think we're rushing to something that we're not financially, fiscally, or in any way ready for, Bruce. And I'm speaking for me, but I'm telling you from an outside looking in, that doesn't make logical sense to put a Band-Aid on it and change it. I want the city of Lafayette to have its own representation like you do. But I feel that rushing to this, when it took so long for us to get to where we were on the deconsolidation side, the consolidation side, that to deconsolidate so quick, or to change it, look, I want the city to have the representation. I don't think there's an argument for that. I just think doing it and putting anybody else in additional stress, Liz, is not, I don't think that's wise.
And I want to be very careful in defining deconsolidation. We are separating councils. The consolidated services.
It's a form of deconsolidation.
You
can slice it.
But the consolidation of services remains in place.
My name's Burley Pellerin. I'm in Liz's district right here. Mine's a simple question, really. Why is this so hard? I mean, our country is how old? Houston does what? Alexandria does what? Why are we having so hard? What have you all done? What best practices are you referencing? Because clearly there are some. But why is it so hard? Don, I mean, years ago, y'all were, I mean, government, why is it so difficult though? What can we reference right now that says we're going to model it after this? Why are we flying by the seat of our pants trying to figure out what 5 little towns and cities are doing that affect us, which is where all the money is? But because of the way things get parsed out for Youngsville and Broussard, now they've got these big multi-million-dollar sports complexes. Who's paying for that?
They are.
They are.
Yeah.
But then what? How does that affect with the parish? And I don't know all of that stuff. I'm just saying, just in general, why can't we look at, or are we looking at, or have we, to show us, to explain to us exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it? Y'all are telling us what to do, and it raises more questions instead of giving us information and letting us see how it worked over there. I don't understand why. I mean, it's a silly question, but can you speak to that at all? Is there a model that you're trying to come up with or referencing to move us forward? Because look, I'm going to tell you, I know what I want. I want to be like the Woodlands, Texas. Y'all familiar with the Woodlands? The Woodlands is awesome. The schools are fantastic. The streets are clean. My thing over here, in case y'all don't know me, I want us to cut the doggone grass. So all I'm saying is how do we get there? Is it property taxes? Is it, what's the model that shows us how to get there? That's all I want.
Real quick, he references the Woodlands. That is not part of Houston. You reference the schools. They have independent school districts, unlike we have. The model that I look at is an entity where taxation is representation is based on taxation. I pay city taxes. I want a representative on my city council to determine how those taxes are paid. That's the model. Broussard, Carencro, Dussault, Youngsville, Scott all have that. Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Lake Charles. Those are your model.
I live in the city of Lafayette.
Then you should have controllable how you're
I
going to
agree with that.
yeah.
But none of what we're talking about talks about the money that we all need because we're broke. The parish is broke.
Parish
the city
is
is close.
Not the city.
City's
City's
good.
close to being broke because every time I talk to them about getting stuff done, it's about the money that we have.
Okay. Let's there's the model.
So this lady here, Nancy in the back, and then the lady in the glasses right there. Where we're going. You're good?
I'll talk to you.
Okay, Nancy, you're next.
First, I wasn't to speak, but because Andy spoke, the city council in the 1990s, the reason there was no city vote was because the city council opposed consolidation vehemently and refused to call an election. With all due respect to my friend Johnny Bygate from my door, we were on opposite sides of that issue. So my feelings about consolidation are the same. I fully support the city of Lafayette having its own council, but you are not giving it autonomy unless you give it its own mayor. Because giving it a city of Lafayette, a council, gives it the right to have a legislative body. They can pass something if the majority of 3, a mayor will veto it, and then you have to have 4 out of 5 votes. I served 2 terms on the 5-member council. That's a challenge. So my concern is that you are not giving, you're saying you're giving Lafayette autonomy, but you're not. You're giving Lafayette a council. That does not give it self-governance. So that's my first concern.
And by the way, I agree with you.
I know you do. And you told me earlier that that amendment isn't being made because there aren't 6 votes. My comment to you is, if it's the right thing to do, make the amendment, whether you have the votes or not. The second thing that concerns me in the charter is that you're creating 3 taxing authorities, correct? The city council, the parish council, and city parish government. So we are now going to have 3 taxing authorities and 3 taxing authorities that can bond debt. That's a significant concern.
You will not be creating a 3rd taxing authority because Lafayette Consolidated Government does not have taxing authority.
It doesn't.
Only the parish of Lafayette and the city of Lafayette.
If the proposed charter under the this section, I just read it. Taxing authority says you will have 3 taxing authorities, the city council, the parish council, and city parish government. You will also have all 3 taxing authorities with the ability to bond debt. It's in the proposed charter, Bruce.
Not the way I read it, Nancy. You can, the only authorities that can propose taxes are school board, airport commission, city of Lafayette, parish of Lafayette. You know, one thing that I found fascinating when I looked at everything, Lafayette Consolidated Government does not own any assets. It's owned by the parish of Lafayette or the city of Lafayette. It's administered by Consolidated Government.
I see trucks with the city parish logo on it.
That's fine, but they don't necessarily own that truck. It may be owned by the city, it may be owned by the parish. One other quick point, and look, one thing I failed to say from the get-go, the one stat that really blows me away on this whole issue, nearly half of the parish of Lafayette does not live in the city of Lafayette. Yet they elect representatives to a city parish council which governs the city of Lafayette.
That's a two-way street, though.
Well, one of the reasons for
Wait,
that is...
wait your turn, just like everyone else has, please.
Hi, I'm Louise Logan. I've lived in the city of Lafayette except for a couple of very short stints for 59 years. So I've been through the whole thing. Went through consolidation, hated it, voted against it. The main reason that I see for doing this and doing it quickly, and if we could do it before December, let's do it then, is because we have right now forces getting ready to sell our electric utility system. That will be voted on by people, by council members who have 9% of their district in the city limits, and the rest of their district is served by whom? Someone other than Lafayette Utility System. There is a huge conflict. And if you don't think it's happening, the Current ran an article in the last day or two about that, and I'm up in arms. My dad, in 1950, was the timekeeper on the old Rotamaker plant on Pinhook when he was in college. My family has worked in the utility system. I worked for the city of Lafayette. My dad worked for the utility system, and I think it's horrible that the citizen-owned utility system is they're even considering selling. Here. That is terrible. So to me, it is imperative that if that happens, if there is a vote taken, that all of the people voting have a major constituency from the city of Lafayette, and that the city of Lafayette citizens are properly represented.
Let's address the elephant in the room. The article in the Current. It took a while to get you to come up. Thank you. The first time that any council member truly became aware of that proposal was when we read it in the Current. This is not being considered by the council.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
This LUS sale is not before the council. This hasn't even been presented to us. It is, well, and it may come to that. But the thing is, that's an administrative initiative. We have nothing to do with it. Ma'am?
You can only do it if you deconsolidate.
No, what's going to happen on this issue? Remember we said that if we're successful in splitting the governments, governing councils, this won't take effect till 2020. Politically, timing-wise, if you're going to make any major substantive changes, you're going to do it during your current term. Because you don't know if you're going to be reelected. You also don't know if you are elected, what kind of council will you be working with? You deal with the known components of politics today. If that issue is going to go forward, it's going to happen between now and December of 2019. But as of today, this council has not been presented with any proposal, okay? We learned about it from reading the Current.
Bruce, don't we as the voters have to vote on that?
Good point. The charter today and the proposed charter says that the sale of the Lafayette utility system must be decided by a vote of the people.
Yes, but isn't there a legal opinion out there that's been, excuse my French, bought and paid for? Isn't there a legal opinion out there that says that the voters don't have to vote on it?
There is some conversation. Look, we're picking up all this conversation between last Friday afternoon and today. And by the way, legal opinions are only as good as the latest legal opinion.
Thank you.
And just so you all know, I'm chairman of the LPUA, and Bruce is also on the LPUA. And I sent an email today to Mayor to also give a statement at the next meeting on the 24th. So he's going to give a statement on that. Because as Bruce said, we all heard about it for the first time in a Current article.
Now, in reference to what you said, Louise, is what we hear, okay, and we haven't even heard it from the Joe Robideau administration, is that perhaps some type of a management contract could be considered, some type of a cooperative endeavor agreement could be considered, which would only require a vote of the council. But I can tell you right now, the people with whom I've spoken with, my cohorts, there's not 5 votes on this approval until we know more about it.
My name's Karen. I don't understand why the issue to deconsolidate is not going to a vote of the people when to consolidate went before by vote of the people. Okay. Now, I am for deconsolidation. I don't have a problem with 5 people on the council. That's what we had before. There's less people, so to say, because of outward migration in all of Louisiana, so I would assume there's less people in Lafayette right now than there were 15 years ago when this started. I don't know.
We've had an increase in population.
It's going from the latest census, yes, but it's on the outward trend. I'm just saying, I think 5 districts would serve just as well now as it did a few years ago. I don't have a problem with the number of districts. I do have a problem with, I just think this is like the gentleman on the third row, I think this is very much being rushed. It took too long to get us here. I agree with him. I'm very concerned with who brought this bill to the council or this ordinance to the council. I'm very concerned with term limits. I don't think if you're term limited on the city parish council, you shouldn't be able to run for any of the other councils. That's why the citizens of Louisiana voted for term limits. And I'm very concerned about the utilities because the utilities is the golden goose for the city of Lafayette. And I'm very concerned that with Mr. Uval retiring, that there was no forethought and has been no forethought about what are we going to do when our chief retires. And if we don't have any forethought with LUS, what's to make me believe we have forethought with deconsolidation? I don't see any real forethought. It's just here, let's do it.
Can I point out, we've been talking about deconsolidation since 2009.
Oh, I know.
I think there's been a lot of forethought, almost a decade of forethought.
But no.
You got voted down. It did get voted down. But we've noticed there's more issues since then, right?
I can on something this quick. When we've been talking about it and it's just a 2-week, here let's deconsolidate. It looks like it's been 2 weeks. It's not addressing all the issues. And I don't have faith in this proposal right here that it will address all the issues.
If I may address your concerns about the office, I was one of them.
Oh, I know.
And we spent a lot of time going over that document and identifying every component that needed to be changed to accomplish the division of the councils. There is nothing in that proposed charter that talks about undoing consolidation of functions. Nothing.
It needs to be looked at.
We look at it, believe me.
My name is Jeff Weiner. I'm in Liz's district. I know this is very complicated, and I'm just looking to make this simple, Bruce, so if you can help me. And maybe for an elevator pitch in the days going forward, people ask, how did the meeting go? What do you think? So people in Youngsville, Karen Crow, Bruce Rock, they like what they have, right? So what you're proposing is that other than the mayor sharing a mayor in a parish, the city of Lafayette will be just like Youngsville or Broussard or Carencro.
Thank you.
Is that basically it? Explain, if not, explain, because that's my elevator pitch to.
I thought what you said, when it comes to a governing council, the city of Lafayette will be just like Broussard, Carencro, Dussel, Youngsville, and Scott.
Except for sharing the mayor. Except for we don't
Except for the mayor president. But here's the thing about the other municipalities. I may have said it earlier, we've talked too much. People in Broussard actually elect 2 mayors.
Yeah.
The people in Broussard elect 2 council members.
Yeah.
The city of Lafayette residents elect 1 mayor president that they share with the parish. And we elect a council representative that we share with the parish.
And Bruce, you probably said this, but this will be decided on the whole parish or just the city?
That's one thing we haven't talked about. Yes, it's a parish-wide vote.
So Youngsville, what would be the advantage for Youngsville and Broussard to vote this down? They lose something by us becoming our autonomous?
Hopefully good faith. But I'm going to call Kevin Blanchard. Is probably one of the more knowledgeable people in terms of, he's worked for LCG, he's an attorney, he's a former newspaper reporter. Don't hold that against him. But
well, you're a former broadcaster.
I'm a former broadcaster. It's amazing how I managed to get where I am today. Kevin, explain the vote if you would, because even I don't completely understand it.
Yeah, so, you know, you hit on a good point, and I think that's part of the reason why I support doing something about the charter, is that I'm a city of Lafayette resident, city of Lafayette taxpayer. I'm a parish of Lafayette resident, I'm a parish Lafayette taxpayer. And no offense to my friends who live outside of the city of Lafayette, but it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that this isn't a city of Lafayette vote on, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a parish-wide vote. And at the end of the day, I do hear a lot like, well, why would somebody from Youngsville support this, right? And that's just not American. Like, just bottom line, right? We have a right to self-govern. Like, that's a basic tenet of how we founded our country. It is convoluted. Everything about this makes governing ourselves difficult as hell, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. Who's accountable for what, right? Jay Castile, who's my friend, represents like the Carencro area. If Jay does a vote on the city police, or does a vote with LUS that I don't like, I'm stuck with it. I can't vote him out, right? So, LUS is a big deal. That's a big deal. And the fact is, I disagree with my friend Stafford here, right? About whether or not it's a good thing to sell LUS or to lease LUS, or have a management agreement about LUS. I can tell you one thing. Nobody who doesn't live in the city of Lafayette should have any part of that city. It needs to be our mistake that we can own. It needs to be a mistake that we can hold our councilmen accountable for, right? That's it. So I'm appreciative for these guys putting it on, because the bottom line is, if this doesn't pass, we're keeping it up. Like, this is not something that's getting better, right? So this is what we got to do. Let's do it.
So this December vote will be voted on by who?
By the parish. But here's the really interesting thing about the current charter that we have in place. While the other communities can opt in, there is no provision in the current charter we can opt out by a vote of the city of Lafayette. Every amendment to the charter requires parish-wide.
Well, Bruce, if Youngsville opted in, could they then opt out at some point, or there's no?
Not the way it's written. Once you're in, you're in. We can't get out. So if you come in, you're with us.
Patty Carter, I'm in District 8, and I have a question why it would not be more feasible to wait to the 2020 census to redraw these lines, because there's been such a major shift in population. Instead of doing this now and then having to adjust the lines again. And then another question I had, again, the current, the sale of our utility system, between 650 million to 800 million maybe. But the money not be put back into the government, and I think everybody in this room agrees that drainage is a major issue, whether you're in the city or the parish, why that money would be put in the community foundation, which is a nonprofit, when the city taxpayers own the system. It should be put back into the city coffers, not into a community foundation that could be divvied up as the council sees fit.
Patty, everything you said is based on what you have read in the current. There's nothing on the table that we have been presented by the Robidoux administration. What was the first part?
The census.
Waiting to be.
The census, we could wait, but quite frankly, in my opinion, we can't afford to wait. 4 more years of what we have today is not going to do the city of Lafayette any good.
The issue is follow the money.
Yep.
If you split them, the parish will control all of the parish property taxes. The parish can elect, outvote everybody in the city for those parish taxes. And they will control them, because if you look at the map, you see that the city is the ghetto area, encircled by the other people. They would only have 2 representatives on the town.
Yeah, Andy, do you have a question?
Yes.
You designed
Yes.
my
What's the
house
question?
that I live in the ghetto. You designed my ghetto house.
Okay.
No, I'm
All
sorry.
right, guys, let's stay on
Let's
track.
boil it down to
Andy,
one
what's your
question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize to y'all. Sometimes these things really get to me because they mean a lot. Would you place the city of Lafayette corporate limits on all the maps, and the small towns on all those maps of the parish districts? So I will know who's in the side of those districts. Because I want to see how the city of Lafayette is divided amongst the parish representatives.
And
You want to solve the...
we talked about overlays.
And will y'all ask the U.S. Justice Department to come down here and investigate the gerrymandering of the city of Lafayette's representation in the current council situation, where the city, I believe you represent 100% of the city, so he is the only elected city council member on the council, because everybody lives in his district, but they don't for you. So I would like for y'all to ask the U.S. Justice Department to investigate whether that is legal taxation with equal representation. Would you do that?
But we can change that argument by adopting our proposed amendments.
This gentleman right here is next. Then-
Hey guys, my name is Lynn Clark. I live in District 5, the most unrepresented district in the whole county. We are the largest unincorporated section. We are the largest unincorporated section. I moved back there 10 years ago. I'm 5th generation from that property I live on. 5th generation. I've paid plenty of taxes. My family has paid plenty of taxes. So you can't say the parish is broke. I haven't seen an LCG truck in my district in 10 years. Our ditches are not clean. We have 3 schools in my district. 3 schools. Your kids come to my district. Terrible roads, drainage, flooding, and that's great. I'd love for the city of Lafayette to have their own council. I want to be represented because I'm the parish, the poor parish, the parish that has no money, that is bringing down the city. We're the drive-through part of the parish. Y'all drive through. Ridge Road is the most traveled road in Lafayette Parish. And what do we get? Nothing. I have not seen an LCG truck or tractor, nothing, not a thing in 10 years, and I pay attention. I work out of my house. I drive through this parish. I know a lot. I take pictures of this.
He watches the cameras on his phone.
Yes, I do. And my friend on Ridge Road, I watch his cameras too. But I'm just telling you, the parish has no problem. We just want to be represented. I did not vote for my council member, not one time, because he has yet to ask my vote. Not one time has he asked for my vote. Not one time has he done anything. I'd like to know how much money has been spent in my district. I bet you it's the least amount in the whole parish, because of some ideological thought of, I'm going to vote no for everything. Does that make sense? Because I suffer. The people, that's the largest part, look at that district too, it just got bigger. It got bigger. And so now I'm going to get less. Really? How can I get less? 0 is 0.
He didn't say don't vote. He never said don't vote for this.
I have no problem with this. I just want to be represented. My district is not represented by nobody.
And Lynn, those numbers are based on population, that's how we form the district.
Oh, I understand that, but again, it's just a big piece of pie.
Don't argue with me.
I'm not.
I agree with you.
I understand.
You were next.
All right, we talked about LUPA, LPUA. How many members on that?
5.
5.
Yes, sir.
You one, who's the other 3?
Me, Kenneth, Nanette Cook, Kenneth Boudreaux, and Pat Lewis.
Okay. So which one comes from a district with less than 50% Lafayette voters?
None.
None. So what's all this argument about these voters, these people that control the LUS coming from constituents without, you know, the parishes?
We don't control LUS. That's been proven through practice. Since 1997, the entire council votes on LUS issues.
Okay, but y'all on the board, y'all on that authority.
With very little power.
Okay, but y'all could resubmit that to the bonding authority that gave you some kind of recommendation saying, we can't, we want the whole parish to vote on it rather than just the council.
That has been tested repeatedly, and that has been proven. Our bonding council told us we have to have full faith and credit of the governing body.
When was the last time it was submitted to them?
We do this, we challenge this about every 4 years. But here's the thing about LPUA, real quick. LPUA, in the charter, is comprised of those folks who have 60% or more city population. It doesn't say it has to be 5. It could be 4. It could be 3. Okay?
Yeah.
Realistically, it could be 3. And that's where we're challenged by this census that's coming up and by the numbers that exist today. The other thing about today's LPUA, not every City of Lafayette resident is represented on LPUA. Simon Mahan, who's our friend, who we hear from constantly, he lives in the City of Lafayette.
We use that term loosely. Lots of friends in this room.
He is not represented on LPUA, but he's a City of Lafayette resident. His representative is Jay Castile, who doesn't qualify to be on LPUA. So the system we have is so convoluted. It just doesn't work.
Well, we also said one of the problems why Lafayette has not grown in population is because it's been slow to annex parts that are adjacent to it. And there's pockets within the city that are just unincorporated, you know. And it's like, well, if we incorporated those, then you would have more residents and you would have less of the criteria that you'd be worried about the 50% or the 52% that might come up in the next one. So I know you say, well, I don't want that because it's not much revenue there, and then I got to provide utilities or police. You know, if you want the voters, you got to provide the services. So you can't just have your cake without putting in all the work that goes with it.
But that applies to everybody, every municipality, not just the City of Lafayette.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at all the areas that are adjacent that are growing. You know, a lot of these subdivisions have sprung up that are adjacent to your city limit. When you drive around the city, it is, I dare say, I've driven around here for 21 years, and I don't know if I've ever seen a city limit sign.
Okay, first of all, real quick, the City of Lafayette in the first 12 years of this government barely grew. Our annexation policy was non-existent to a great extent. And in the meantime, Youngsville, Broussard, Caribou, Scott exploded. And Broussard and Youngsville did it under a wholesale water contract that we, LUS, provided. Okay? So the City of Lafayette has been disadvantaged from day one.
Mustard shirt in the back, and then Roddy, and then right here. Oh, you came in last. They've been first. Go ahead. Yeah, mustard shirt.
I know I spoke already, so thank you for letting me speak. Yeah, like I said before, I'm Bruce, District 6. Well, first of all, just on a side note, just because people brought this up and I wasn't aware of it, if anybody really, I don't understand why anyone would want to sell LUS. It's insane. We know what happens to charity hospitals when it's a general situation and privatize them. What's with the need to privatize everything? We have a system that's been working wonderfully for us. But going to all these issues that we're facing, right? The way government is set up. You know, we have a lot of great things that Lafayette, the city has, as no other part of the parish has. We have we have a great bus system, we have a great power utility, we have LUS Fiber. These are awesome things. Now, in an ideal world, these things will be able to be seen in the entire parish. But the best way to achieve that, in my opinion, is to eventually move towards a system where we are further consolidating. That way, everyone's paying into LUS, everyone's paying into the transit system, everyone's paying into LUS Fiber, everyone's paying into everything. We all share the same taxes, and we all share the same places, right? That would make more sense.
Question? Do you have a question?
Yeah, well.
How do we get there?
Yeah.
Great idea. How do we get there?
You guys, like, I understand that the politics might not be there, but I get it. But what do you guys think of this idea of ultimately moving towards a more unified system that really brings us all together as this tiny little parish we call Lafayette, Louisiana?
Idealistically, it's a great idea. Is it going to happen? No.
Jokingly, can we sell LUS and buy the rest of the house? I want to be clear. Can we sell LUS and buy the rest? No, first question, what is our cost on separating the parish, the council? There's going to be a cost. We're going from 9 to 10. Home charter rule says we've got to pay somebody $30,000. So we know there's going to be a cost involved in that. Number two, has the DOJ looking at those, take a look at those maps and pass through the retrogression testing to make sure District 3 and 4 meet the requirements from the DOJ. Number three, do you have an update on, I don't know, Woodrow's radio show yesterday? It was a little rough. Does anybody have do y'all have a comment on the, I guess, the brewing battle that's going to be between District 3 and 4?
Okay, on the first question about the Department of Justice, back in 2013, they changed their rules, where in the past we had to submit everything to them for their approval, and it took up to 90 days. They changed their rule in 13 to where if we stay within the parameters of a certain deviation percentile, we're okay. And when you reference 3 and 4, we're actually now talking 1 and 5. Those would be our majority minority districts. So we have to comply with the percentage percentile, the deviation that the Justice Department has set up. That's the one thing the demographer looks at. And from that part, when you do your minority with districts, then you can look at the rest of the parish. In District 2, which I would represent, it's about a 75-25 split.
What about cost? Like, what is it?
Okay, costs, one salary, $30,000. And by the way, folks, we get no benefits. We can get insurance, but we pay 100% of the premium, unlike our employees. Any benefit that our employees get, we can receive, but we pay 100%. Okay?
I pay 100% of mine.
Well, that's fine. It's your choice.
As it should be.
I have to work full-time to get it.
I'm sorry, what?
I have to work full-time to get it. Health insurance benefits? I mean, that's another area we can talk about.
That's a whole nother meeting. That's a whole nother meeting. Did they answer all your questions?
Go back to the question. $30,000 in salaries. We have.
A staff.
35. Wait a second. Wait a second. If you look at the charter amendment, it says that the parish and the city council will share the existing staff today. I think I mentioned that earlier. You've got, right now we have 9 members served by staff. We're going to go to 10. They can handle it.
Plus the cost of the sweet shirts, right?
What's that?
Plus the cost of the shirts, right?
And wait, I have another question.
Time to fill this in, you know?
Is there any comment on District 3 and 4, or do we need to go to Pat and get us districts?
That was an interesting show yesterday.
It was.
Right.
Okay, my name is Debbie Smith. I live in District 6. Many of you don't know me. I'm a realtor.
I know you, Debbie.
Okay, thank you. Your neighbors. We live, thank you. I live in my automobile with people new to our area who are coming to be part of the Lafayette culture. They don't talk about the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette. They talk about Lafayette, that odd-shaped little circle thing rectangle, that little triangle, that little thing, that little geographic area that's one of the smallest in the state of Louisiana, has a reputation that circles the globe. Divided, we fail. It is so important that we never lose sight of what is so unique about our parish. Lafayette is Lafayette. And it concerns me that what I hear from all of the council, every one of you, and all of the people here, is a turf war. We don't need a damn turf war. We need to figure out a way how to govern that triangle as efficiently, as cost efficiently as the dollar will divide, because they're not making them any more of it. So it's important that we keep that in mind. That was it. Thank you.
I'm Will Kellner. I'm in District 8 District. I think I want to point out some of this is a fool's errand, because we keep talking about a silver bullet, and that doesn't exist. If we could reanimate Franklin and Jefferson and Hamilton and lock them in the Cajun Dome, give them as much ale as they needed to come up with a founding document, we wouldn't be satisfied. People here would be arguing that it was insufficient. We argue about politics in Louisiana all the time. As far as best practices, someone asked a question about that earlier. If you want to look for best practices where someone from a small political subdivision has representation on a bigger government and their small political subdivision, that's our country, right? That's the United States. But if you took our government and you imprinted it on the United States right now, then a resident of Mississippi would have a vote in the Louisiana legislature. And a resident of a territory like Guam would have a vote in the Louisiana legislature, as well as their vote in Congress, to which they're entitled. But the Louisiana resident would just have his vote in the legislature and Congress. That's what we have. So we could have all the time in the world to get it right. And we could come up with the best policymakers and the best draftsmen, and our governing document wouldn't be perfect. But what no one here can tell me is why a Lafayette resident has to wait. Why I have to wait and my equal representation and my government suffer while people figure it out. There's no justification for that. I mean, in the Constitution allowed equal representation. There's no reason why people in Youngsville should have a say in my political subdivision. I agree with you. We do have a great place, and we should work together. But America's a great place too, and that's how America governs. And I think it can work here in Lafayette. So if everybody wants to come together, then let's have Youngsville and Broussard sign up to get rid of their autonomy. I'm not going to have a second-class autonomy to pursue an idealism that we're never going to reach.
Well,
very well said. I just want to remind the group, and I guess basically it's to answer the question that you had in the back. Why can't we all just get along and work as one big group? When this all started 22 years ago, in theory, the group that put it together said, we would consolidate resources, we would consolidate money, we would consolidate everything, and we would run great. But unfortunately, in our infinite wisdom, we elected the first mayor of consolidated government, Mayor President, a parish person who had been on the parish council for years. And the first act that he did was turn the water hose on and say, here you go, folks, all the water you need. And all of a sudden, under his administration, we stopped annexing prime property that would have been taxes that this community could have gotten. All of a sudden, we stepped back and let everyone else do their thing. I agree with you. We all have to work together. But we're not working together right now. We're serving two masters, and that's impossible. We have to serve the city. And kudos again to
Is it okay if I make a statement instead of asking a question? My name has been brought up a couple of times.
I think all of us have been
What you're saying is right. Mr. Kellner, where he goes. What you're saying is absolutely right as well. No document is perfect. We don't have a perfect charter. We found that out when Bruce and I served on the Charter Commission. We found out that there were things that we could do to make it better. One of the pledges that I made after he and I had debate all over this parish, was if deconsolidation fails, that I'm going to be active in trying to fix the charter. And Kevin, we've met. We've actually met over the years trying to do that. It hasn't happened until now. So it's not like we're rushing to a final judgment. What we're doing now is saying, this is a start. If this passes, and I think it's a great start, if it passes, it's not going to be perfect. It probably is going to need to be changed again. That's what government's all about. And unfortunately, we get stuck in political discussions and do nothing. So my suggestion is, let it be on the ballot. In December, we can vote. We can each exercise our ability to vote and decide at that time if we want to move forward, and I'm going to support it. Are we going to move forward, or are we going to stay where we are? I'm hopeful that the citizens of Lafayette will say, let's move forward. And maybe 5 years from now, we might change it again. We might find that something is wrong, something needs to be changed. But let's not wait. We've waited too long. Now's the time for action. And I applaud the council for at least giving us the opportunity to vote. They're not making the decision. We'll make the decision. They're just giving us a structure to vote on. But it's going to be up to us to decide. An easy tough question that I have. What is the date that you guys decide if it goes on the ballot? And can you change it after that date, or is that solid until December?
When we vote on it August 7th, the process from that point goes to the bonding commission at the August 21st meeting. That's a rubber stamp issue. It then goes to the Secretary of State. That sets up the ballot proposition, and once it's on the ballot, then it's a done deal. Well, I say that. We can always, at the last minute, put it back, but it still would be on the ballot.
Yeah. You did? Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, I gave Bruce the section of the proposed charter.
Yeah, it's kind of written weirdly.
That says we have 3 taxing authorities in section 508, bonded debt. The city of Lafayette, parish of Lafayette, and/or city parish government is empowered to incur bonded debt, because all 3 are taxing authorities.
Marley,
Just quickly, my name's Marley Alomar. I just wanted to first thank Liz and Bruce for hosting this.
Here, here.
That we all have learned a lot, and I look forward to the discussion over the next couple weeks and for the opportunity to vote on December 8th. There were several of you that asked why now, and I really want to echo Mr. Conque's comments about this has been worked on for a long time, and no proposal will be perfect. But one of the things that we have right now that as a City of Lafayette representative means a lot and gives it the ability to get on the ballot is we have at least one, quote, parish council member willing to put his name behind this initiative. As you may or may not know, this does need 6 votes to get on the ballot in December, and without at least one representative that has a majority of parish residents, the city lacks its autonomy to even get on the ballot. And there is no guarantee that come after the 2020 census that we would have that. We have a great working 9-member council now, and we need to take that opportunity to get the city of Lafayette its autonomy today. The last point I want to make before I sit down, and Will Kellner made it, Kevin Lyncher made it, a couple other folks made it tonight. The form of government we have, if you really study it, is not American. We do not believe as Americans in representation without taxation. And that's what we have. We have people who don't pay taxes, who have representation on how money is spent. And that's a fundamental structural problem that most of us who believe in the American form of government do not believe in. This is an opportunity to fix that. And so I ask that you support your
the charter,
Okay.
the utilities charter.
Stay the same.
And wait, let me finish. But my main question is, can you offer any insight as to how you would reinvest in capital improvements in the city of Lafayette if you sell our utilities?
Okay, first of all, on the issue of LPUA is not a part of the charter. It basically doesn't have any real power. It's up to the council. Under the charter, if we sell LUS with a vote of the people, city of Lafayette people, that's one important thing, city of Lafayette, the monies derived would have to be used for city of Lafayette capital improvements. That's based on the sale of the utility system. The reports that we're getting may circumvent that process. May, because I have no clue as to what's being proposed. That may change the game as to how will the monies be spent. Somebody mentioned Community Foundation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that for a fact. You read it in the Current. I don't doubt the Current. Love the Current. Good investigative reporting. But they're basing it on what they've been able to find. There's been only one reporter I found out today that actually spoke with Joel this afternoon. Claire Taylor. I'm looking forward to her report. See what Joel said. Until Joel speaks to us as a council, we have no clue.
So you're saying that it possibly might not be a sell.
It could be a contract, a management contract.
They might do something else.
We're getting away from the subject here.
That would eliminate that provision.
My word is circumvent.
I think the intent of that provision, though, is to reinvest in the city. Now, I know Community Foundation does indeed reinvest back into the city, but it's not all capital improvement.
Well, Kim, I don't know when you walked in, but my comment was, with the people that I have talked to in the council, he doesn't have 5 votes, unless he had a hell of a story to tell us.
I saw some hands in the back. Did I miss you guys in the back? Did y'all have a question? Or were you just waving by? Okay. I'm just stalling for Andy.
I just have one question. Since the council presents the amendments to the charter, and you adopt this to council principle, which council will vote on whether or not to change the charter? Do they have to mutually agree to put proposals to amend the charter? Like Mr. Conque said, it's supposed to evolve. Can the city, if they feel, the city council feels that something needs to be amended, can they present it to the voters only? Or does the parish council have to approve it? How is the amendment process going to work now that you have 2 separate councils?
It's written into the proposed changes that the majority of each council would have to agree to get that accomplished. That's in the proposed
That's
changes.
a stalemate, nothing would happen.
Right here. I'm sorry. Right here, right here, right here.
There's been some excellent comments of why we should vote for this in November, because of taxation without representation. I have a question that's not going to be answered by you two. Thank you for putting this on. For somebody out here, what is the best reason you can tell them to vote against this in November if it gets on the ballot? Why would you oppose this? I want to hear a valid, concise argument.
I'm concerned that the parish cannot support itself, and it's going to end up being an albatross around the city.
Can I answer that question? The city of Lafayette in 1992 voted for consolidation, voted to keep us together as a group, and in the last second you heard the facts. All the municipalities, after we elected it, voted against us to keep their own control. We have proven our good faith. The city has.
That's right. It doesn't change.
The parish is going to vote for one thing, and the city's going to vote something else. And how is the public works going to say, well, now who do we listen to? We got to play referee to see which one gets done? No. Whether there's drainage, or there's road that we got to go through here, or there's roundabout, you know, do we put it in? Well, the parish wants this, and the city wants this, and then now we got delay, and we got people playing referee to say which one yes. Just like that gentleman brought up, if the parish wants something and they vote something and the city votes it down, nothing happens. You know, if the city wants something and the parish votes it down, nothing happens. That's why you got stalemate. You got 5 and 5. You got just like we got in Congress. You know, this side wants this, and this side wants that.
All right, here's the issue with his comment. That's happening today.
Yes.
Period.
And you got 9 people.
and getting nothing done at the areas that you're concerned with. It doesn't change.
I wanted to ask, is it on the LCG website that I can check out what the city of Scott and all the others are paying on their property taxes?
I'm sorry, no, you'd have to go to the assessor's office. Go to the assessor's office. And
No, I mean as a whole, like, is there a chart of highlight?
if you go to the assessor's office, he can break it down by the authorities.
Okay, and I want to make a statement on drainage because it is a huge, huge issue. I live in the city, never has flooded, never will flood. But I watch the news and my heart breaks. We all know that. But what I am happy about that I've seen lately, especially in the last 2 years, the different mayors and even out of our parish are getting together because the test doesn't stop here. It goes on down from here. So we get Tesh Million District. We're doing that now with Cooley, Mine. The cities are getting together. We're going to fix this drainage that way. Finally, after all these years, it was kind of like when Mike Foster came into being governor. Everybody complaining we don't have overpasses on I-49 going to Morgan City. Well, we don't have the money. We need millions and millions to build one a year until it's done. And now it's a much nicer ride when I have to make the trek down to Morgan City and home.
Because you got a master plan.
That's right. Do a little bit a year, it's going to get fixed. We have really laid down the law on these coulees that had trees growing in them and solid dirt because they have not been maintained. When I saw, I guess it's been a decade now, the Alice Boucher School, how the ceilings were falling and there was mold everywhere. I was appalled that children were in that school. I had no idea, you know. So our leaders are coming together on the issues, and I do hope that the other cities in the parish let us have our city issues because we all are one, and nobody's going against the parish. But if y'all want to be annexed and become Lafayette, we'd love that too.
And just to point to her, yes, it's important that we get the vote of the other municipalities, but I think the latest numbers show that only 15% of the total parish population lives in the other municipalities. What's going to carry this vote is the city of Lafayette and the unincorporated area. 17,000 people in the unincorporated area, 125,000 in the city of Lafayette.
I thought we said 45,000 earlier. What was that?
That's breakdown by district.
Huh?
That's breakdown by district and then on the parish council.
No, that's 25.
City council will be 25.
Right.
Excuse me. I was at the last city council meeting. My name's Patty Carter. And it was distressing to me that our mayor president had no opinion on any of this. Why is he so disengaged and why isn't he on top of this and commenting on it and having an opinion on it?
Well, I'll respond to you the same way I did on Facebook. Ask him.
Yeah, email him.
No disrespect.
I know, but you don't engage with him and have conversations with him?
That's a whole different
Carter, I'd like to make a point. When I have something to ask LCG, I email every city parish council member. And I know which ones respond back. And you know what? 6 of them never, ever respond. I don't know if my email was lost in the Neverworld of the
yes.
Website. That's bad business. Email him. If he doesn't email him back, call him.
And it's important we talk about consolidated government. One thing we have not mentioned is that as council members, we don't run consolidated government. In fact, we are prohibited by civil service laws from directing any employee to do anything. Now, has it been done in the past? Absolutely. But by law, we're prohibited. The person who runs consolidated government day by day today is Lowell Duyon. He's the chief administrative officer. He reports to Joel Robideau, who's the mayor president. Let's just make it clear to the organization, we do not run day-to-day operations. We can pass on concerns you have, to LCG. We have a staff that does that very well. But we cannot direct employees. Nor can Joel come in and direct the council. We are a legislative body. We make the law. He puts it in place.
Well, who's accountable?
Who's accountable? We all are, every 4 years. It's called the ballot box.
That didn't sound like you guys accountable.
Bruce, I had one question for both of you that hasn't come up. One of the biggest expenses for Lafayette city government is the courthouse, the judges, the jail, the district attorney. And it's my understanding, it's my understanding that right now the city is spending sales tax money and property tax money to prop up those parts of the system. So my question is whether this proposal will change that. The parish doesn't have enough money out of property tax, right, to pay for that. The property taxes passed by the parish don't fund all those agencies. So have you guys looked at what's going to happen to that part of the parish government if you separate that out? Because as far as I know, in meeting with Joel and talking about that, the city has been pouring money into those agencies. Y'all just recently stopped doing that for the DA, but you're still subsidizing that because of the shortage of property tax, which is a problem because the other municipalities are using the parish jail, they're using the court system, but they don't contribute anything other than property tax.
And Paul, another former broadcaster. Paul, I disagree with you. I could not go into the budget today and tell you that's happening. Are we using parish general funds to do that? Yes. Absolutely.
So you're saying the parish would have enough money to continue to do that?
No, the parish doesn't have enough money to do today. Okay, they're going to do what they have today. Now, I will tell you one thing that's on the agenda next week, which really bothers me. Parish parking garage, safety issues. We're about to close it because of safety concerns. So what we're going to do, the proposal is city buy it. We're going to buy a building that we're going to tear down and we're going to rebuild it and become a city property. I'm not saying I'm going to vote against it, but I'm just telling you that's another instance where the city of Lafayette is bailing out the parish because the parish doesn't have money.
So my question is, if the parish doesn't have the money to run the courthouse and the jail, and they're separate, what's the solution to that?
Nothing changes. And I tell you, it impacts you.
But you guys, the city is subsidizing, is that right?
No.
You're not subsidizing any cost of the DA's office or the parish?
No, it's all parish funds, general funds. Which is the real issue. There's no general fund money.
Yeah.
So taxes need to go up.
We need to have more revenue sources.
The taxes need to go up.
Taxes have to go up. Yeah. And with that's a whole different presentation.
Hi, I'd like to just give y'all.
This took a while to get to, okay?
I just want to give y'all a little history. When consolidation came up, the parish passed an ordinance to call for the merger of the city of Lafayette and the parish. They also called a ballot to adopt the home rule charter, 2 separate ballots. Because I think the Charter Commission, but they said that the Charter Commission had flaws in it, and those might have came out. But they knew that if we put the 2 ballots together, it would pass. And that's what they did. 30 days after they had 2 separate ballots, they merged them into one. And if you read the back of the home rule charter, it will say, shall the home rule charter be adopted? But I believe I gave you, Bruce, the real ballot, which said, shall we merge into one government, city of Lafayette and parish, and adopt that charter? So the question, again.
Andy, how long have you been making that point? How long? Because I mean,
you've heard it before?
Oh, I've heard it 100.
Well, I've been trying to make the point
1,500 times.
No,
I mean,
I appreciate that. But the point is, we can solve the problem right now if you give every district representative an equal number of city population and an equal number of parish population. You wouldn't have to split anything. You wouldn't have to create anything. Actually, you could set up city districts with only city members and then have the parish districts around. And when you want to vote on parish things, the city people vote with the parish because they're representing both. And then where cities issues, only the people in the city representative who are 100% represented as city voters vote for that. And you could have 9. You would have to do all this.
That could have been possible in 1996 because the city of Lafayette had 60% of the parish. Today we have barely 52%. You can't make the numbers work. We looked at that. We looked at it very carefully.
We got more today, but Ken's in 2020.
What's that?
We got more today because that was projected 2020. This is
No, today we got 53%.
Oh, 53. That's it, 52.
Yeah, there was 2 dates with the last census and then the.
But what he suggested is a city council within the city parish council, and the numbers don't work out.
What's the likelihood? Why can? And I maybe should know this. Why can't the city of Lafayette just pick up the remaining unincorporated areas?
Why should we? Then we'd have to provide fire protection, police protection, all the services that we would actually, when you annex residential properties, you really don't generate that much more money.
But we should have higher property.
We have property taxes in the city of Lafayette for streets and alleys, strangely enough, for police and fire, and that's it. We pick up that property tax, but it would not be enough to provide the service.
And I can have people in my district in an incorporated area that would say absolutely not, leaving alone to be forced annexation, which they don't want either.
What do you need, 40% to annex? What's the?
51%?
51.
Yeah, that's it. We can't force annexation. That's
Right, no,
it.
you can't, but no one else.
But if it was a business, they wouldn't care what you think. They want the business in because they want the revenue.
Okay, well, they wouldn't.
Guys, it's almost 10 to 8. I want to be respectful of the library and to you guys. We'll stay after and talk unless, did I have somebody with one more question? Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, the question or the issue of the fire district.
Thank you, folks.
It's a separate issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And if I get this properly, guys, please take one.
Thank you very much for fire
I just want to thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
You're going to have to do every one of these meetings? Good for you.